Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Fink. I'm here with Ted Schilowitz. It's April 1st, 2022. It's This Week in XR, thanks to our sponsor, Verbella. Good morning, Ted.
Morning, Charlie. Always an auspicious day, the 1st of April. Reddit, Discord, others that sort of live in that the world of fodder may talk about
Apple's buying NBC Universal.
Apple's buying everything in one fell swoop. Is going to be the April Fool's joke of the day, probably. We'll see.
Well, we have got a fantastic guest today, and not just because it's April Fool's, but because he is a great guy. Yeah. TFMJonny, professional VTuber on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. He plays an anime wolf boy and music star named TFMJonny, and I don't know that he's going to perform for us musically, but he's going to stop by and tell us what that world of VTubing is all about. The guy's got millions of followers. He makes bank, and I have to say, the character he's created is both engaging and funny and incredibly likable.
Yeah, when you told me he was going to be our guest today, I did some checking last couple of days, watched a couple of his streams on TikTok and YouTube, and it's really interestingly engaging. And watching him engage with fans, on a one-on-one basis is pretty intriguing. So it's a brave new world out there of what content means.
I mean, people can decide that they're going to be a YouTube star and actually just go out and do it. Yeah. So it's kind of incredible. The guy's in his house, unemployed at the beginning of the pandemic, and he said, "I got an idea. Let me see if I can make something out of this." Yeah. And now he's a star.
Yeah, it's it is a true representation of the democratic nature of content over the internet, even in the Web 2.0 days. And as we start to migrate into the Web 3.0 days, what we're going to see emerging from talent of all forms from all parts of the planet is going to be really interesting for us to watch and see.
So big news today. Or I shouldn't say today.
Lots of big news. That's a lot. It's a big week, right? Lots of good fundraising
this week, and of course our friends at Nreal kicked it off by reeling in another $60 million from Alibaba.
Yeah, and that's a good partner to have. They are continuing to raise, continuing to push what it takes for the level of funding to get a meaningful mixed reality product out into the market. And companies like Alibaba are recognizing that and keeping the flame alive, which is
well,
great.
I think Alibaba is a great partner, especially since their next move is actually into their home country of China. Right. They've been making the glasses there. They're available in the US through Verizon and in Japan. So and I believe also in Germany. And now, of course,
the Deutsche Telekom partnership.
Yeah, and I think Deutsche Telekom, but I don't have the notes in front of me. But they have a factory in China, and they're capable of making several million of these Nreal glasses a year, and obviously that's a huge market for them right in their backyard. And Chinese consumers very forward-looking when it comes to new tech like AR glasses. So hopefully they'll continue to grow into hundreds and if not millions of users in the near future.
Yeah, it's a good step forward. You and I both have demonstration sets of the glasses, and they do prove that the value point. They're still pretty locked into an Android world right now, but at some point that'll probably migrate out to even a larger ecosystem of users, still tethered to a smartphone today.
Yeah, and it has to be one of the new 5G Android smartphones. So even though the phone is $600, obviously if you don't own one of those handsets already, it kicks up the price pretty good.
Right.
So other news, you remember our friends from Mojo Vision?
Yeah, they're still also kicking and proving, right?
Well, they were in town last week and they demoed for me their new contact lenses. I couldn't actually put them on my eye, but they had a little device that let them hold them up in front of my eye. They're really the size of contact lenses.
Right,
so you need a special device just to hold them.
Right.
But what they proved through this demonstration, which they did for me and a number of writers in New York, was demonstrate that not only does it really work, but you can read them. You can put images in them. You can, for example, you could use it as a teleprompter and just sort of move the text by gaze, through gazing up and down at at the edge of the frame, you're able to manipulate it as if you had a virtual mouse in your eye.
Yeah, and I think it's a good definition of real disruptive innovation, right? There's a lot of concern, a lot of worry about actually wearing something in your eye with that level of electronics, but that is what disruption is all about, which you and I have made stock and trade on.
Well, I think, I mean, it is one of the coolest things I've seen in quite some time. So, sometimes you see a lot of stuff. So that when something makes you go, wow, it's got to be really, really special.
And they've raised a significant amount of capital too, right, over the last sort of junctures to pull this off.
I think this must bring them close to $250 million in capital.
Right. So it's not a small undertaking to try to pull this off.
Factory.
Yeah.
So there's a company called the Live. Do you know these guys?
Yeah, they're doing like how do we best describe it? They're eventizing. They're capturing people in VR, right? The capture system.
Exactly. Well, most of the videos, people have seen their videos without knowing them, right? When you see an actual human inside of Beat Saber wearing their headset and knocking over the triangles, that's Live. And you can live stream that, you can record it. And they just raised $8.5 million Series A from Bitcraft with participation from companies like Sony and Alexa. And so they, seem like they're, really getting some traction, and we may be seeing a lot more people like TFMJonny
inside VR,
inside of the virtual world. Exactly.
Yeah, well, and Sony has an important dog in the hunt with their next gen VR headset coming out, right? And they're going to need to promote what people are doing in it in a compelling way, and not just seeing what those people are seeing on the screen, but seeing the human form inside the environment of what they're doing. So it's a version of mixed reality using virtual reality headset and cameras, right? So
I think it could be the beginning of a whole giant talking about V casting. We should ask Johnny about this. Could be the beginning of a new genre.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a good week.
So now here's another company out of India which is rather an opaque market, at least to me. A company called Nimo Smart Glasses wants to replace your screen. Right. So in other words, don't carry your whole PC around, just carry a little foldable keyboard mat, lay it out, fire up your Nimo glasses, and you're surrounded by screens. So it sounds like a pretty great idea, actually.
Yeah, and look, I mean, a lot of them, the mixed reality companies that are out there, including Nreal, have some sort of metaphor of this, right? Some sort of metaphor of the like traditional compute version of a bunch of icons you click on and opening up a document and typing in it and doing all these things. It's sort of that transference of what we do today into what we're going to do tomorrow with the comfort logic of how it all works. So there's another attempt at it. Out of a smaller, lesser known company, and sometimes those are the ones that get it right. So we'll keep a close eye on them.
Yeah, we shall see. So, did you hear about the Axie Infinity heist?
Yeah, that's crazy, right? What was it?
Over $500 million in Ronin cryptocurrency.
Yeah, over half a billion dollars, right? Yeah.
I'm surprised this isn't a bigger headline. The Axie Infinity company, Sky Mavis, which is based in Vietnam, so far has kind of tried to downplay it, but I guess the question nagging in me, Ted, is whose $600 billion was that? You would think we'd be hearing quite a lot from them.
Yeah, and it may be a collective of a whole bunch of people that have, and maybe a lot of them don't even realize they've lost it yet, right? So
I don't know. That's an awful lot of money to misplace, even if only a fraction of it is yours.
Right. Yeah, and is Axie even reporting to those users, like, do they have to go and check their accounts to see what it is?
I don't know. And then of course Axie has all of these sort of weird syndicates who pay for people to play.
Right.
So the pay to play game has people who are investing on behalf of the players.
Right. It's like it's called staking. They stake their people. Yeah.
You have to buy your first few Axies, I guess, before you can start breeding them. So and hence the paying, and then the playing commences, and I guess you can earn the money back through breeding more Axies.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the 600
know.
million?
The pay to play thing, I think the pay to play thing could take a significant hit from this. I mean, there are people playing all over the world. If they think that their, assets in the game are vulnerable,
Yeah.
Investing that kind of time, and in many cases money, seems rather reckless. And of course, typical of the crypto world, right? There are no crypto cops. If your money is stolen, there's no recourse.
No way to get it back. Right.
I mean, I guess they're in some cases using some significant cyber sleuthing. People have found some of their lost money and gotten it recovered, but this is by no means a straightforward or simple task. And of course, there's obviously no, unlike bank robbers, there's no federal registry telling you exactly how freaking dangerous it is to have your money not only in crypto, but in this kind of sub crypto that has to be created for every game universe like Axie.
Yeah, well, and hacks like this are a somewhat regular occurrence over the arc of what, when Bitcoin was first brought in and ETH was first brought into the world. There are moments in time, and there are interesting documentaries you can all watch about like when the big ones have happened and they've had to fork off different chains and huge losses of people's actual currency. This is not just play money; it's real money that they're losing. So it's something to watch. Be interesting to see if some of the other earn to play folks that are really big in the business like Sandbox have to have some sort of public reaction or public statement about their level of.
I don't think this is the last we're going to be talking about this story.
Oh no, I think as it gets more and more popular, people will find a way. That's the beauty of chaos, as it were, right?
So we've got TFMJonny, professional VTuber on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. He's in the green room. Let's bring him in.
Great. Good timing. You'll find him easily.
Hello.
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Not bad. Great to be here.
Welcome to the show. You don't know Ted, right? So happy to introduce you guys.
We don't know each other, but I've watched your materials and I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Johnny, I don't see your video. Most people are listening on audio, of course, so it's not super critical. But for Ted and I, we'd like to see your mug.
If you have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Give me a quick second here, and I'll get my model up here.
So, Johnny, you're coming to us live from cyberspace, but you're actually in Canada, right?
Yeah, I'm based out of Canada.
And are there other VTubers like you local to you? Have you ever figured that out, or is just everybody?
Yeah, actually, I don't know what it is, but actually Canada in general, there are a lot of Canadian VTubers, and there's a lot of Canadian content creators on YouTube and Twitch and TikTok. But yeah, there's even some VTubers local to my area, and I've met them in person, and it's really cool.
So maybe you should start as you're pulling up your avatar, pulling up whatever video feed you're going to put on here, by defining a VTuber. Give us a sense of what that is.
So a VTuber basically stands for virtual YouTuber, and it's really essentially at this point just any public individual or content creator or performer that uses a virtual avatar. Versus, being on camera and using their IRL persona and look and all that.
And so how did you decide on the avatar that you use?
As far as the avatar I use, I have a team of artists that help me design everything, all the assets that I use and everything. My most latest iteration, which I'm about to pull up here for you on the call.
We can hold for a second so we don't distract you if you want.
Yeah,
we can just trim this out. We can trim this part out.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I have said that it's an anime wolf boy. So I guess, and of course you're a musician, and that's a big part of the persona.
There we go.
You
see me?
Johnny, there it is. Hey,
we gotcha.
It's teen singing sensation TFMJonny. What does TFM stand for?
So TFM actually just was one of those weird things that when I started my content creator journey, there was a name that stuck. It was a small community that I belonged to about 5-6 years ago, based around some trucking simulator games. So it actually stands for Truckers FM. The community is still going.
Fantastic.
And it started as an online radio station for the community, and it actually grew into this quite large thing. And they basically provide a community radio station to trucking simulator games and other simulation video games. And it's kind of funny because I started there and then I went on to what I'm doing now. Another buddy of mine who founded the online station went on to, now he works as the head community manager for the company that makes the Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator games, and he's traveling around the world doing all that stuff. So it's kind of funny how some people have gone to terrestrial radio from that, and it's kind of cool that it was a jumping off point for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm sitting here saying that exists.
Well, it's interesting, all the genres and subgenres of entertainment. Like Charlie, you and I have come from the world and still continue to be in the world of quote unquote mainstream entertainment, right? But the idea of what entertainment is so humongous, and audiences that find, birds of a feather and connected into these worlds. It's kind of incredible that there's economies and thriving communities across so many genres. And Johnny, you have tapped into one and then migrated over into another one where your YouTube persona and your TikTok persona are now monetizable, and you have a real continued audience, right, all the time. I'm curious, which is the primary place that people are finding you now?
It's mostly YouTube, and then followed by TikTok, obviously those being kind of the main content platforms right now on the internet. But also VTubing has a very healthy home in over on Twitch. And the fandom for VTubing is the best way to describe it is a very dedicated fan base. Like, think of like professional wrestling and their fan base, and how like the fans are just like incredibly dedicated. They're not like large per se compared to other fandoms, but they're extremely dedicated. And especially that's true over on Twitch with all the VTubers over there, is you may have a smaller audience to tap into, but that audience is incredibly dedicated to all these VTubers and what they do. So, and it's steadily growing on all the platforms, and VTubing is steadily entering into the mainstream, which is really cool to see as well. And I've watched that happen over the last 5 years.
Well, it also probably speaks to the style of your avatar. Is there's an anime legacy to that, or history? Like, you can feel it, the big eyes and the way that you've designed yourself. And anime was probably one of the very first really hardcore viral like audiences that were so into it and lived inside it and continue to find their community inside it. So it looks like you've tapped a vein there, I would presume.
Yeah, and actually, well, VTubing comes from Japan, and the idea of VTubing originally started there about 5-6 years ago. And Japan is kind of technology wise, as usual, ahead of everybody by about 5 years or so. Mm-hmm. And so VTubers started over in Japan, like I say, about 5 years ago, and then grew from there to the point now today. VTubers are just accepted as mainstream entertainers, and you'll see them on TV as presenters and doing just regular. The Japanese media companies just treat them like any other talent, and the audiences over there just it's just a normal thing. And it's really cool now in North America and Europe, in the Western audiences, we're actually starting to see that phase in as well. But back when I started VTubing, we didn't even know what it was. We just created content in VR and had avatars, but eventually this idea of VTubers was associated with us, and it grew from there.
So, in other words, in a few years, we'll be seeing you on Jimmy Fallon and other memes.
Maybe. If my phone is wide open. If they want to call,
I'll make sure to pass your number along when their bookers call me. So, how did you get inspired to do this? Right? I mean, I'm sort of sitting here thinking, well, you've been doing this 2 years, is that right?
I've been doing content creation for about 4 years.
As TMFJonny though.
Yeah.
So 4 years ago, but that's longer than I remember, although you and I have been talking for years. So maybe maybe it has been that long. But what inspired you? What gave you the idea to do it? You were obviously using VR chat for entertainment.
Yeah. So I mentioned TFM, and or we talked about TFM, and I've always wanted to get into some form of content creation or broadcasting. And so I was at TFM, and I met a lot of Twitch streamers over there because they were also presenters on the station, and got talking, and they were just like, yeah, the Twitch is this really cool thing. You can live stream and play games and do all sorts of stuff. And so I was like, well, why can't I go on VR chat and do music, and stream that on Twitch? And that's kind of where I started, was just, how do I perform live music and stream that out to an audience? And then from there, it just kind of ballooned and grew into what I'm doing today. But yeah, I've been full-time for 4 years now with content creation on Twitch and YouTube and TikTok.
But before you ever put on a VR headset or heard about virtual beings, you were a musician and a performer, right?
Absolutely. I've been a musician all my life. Music is just something that, like, my earliest memories is of, playing music. So it's just been a lifelong journey and a lifelong thing for me.
Now, Ted, I met Johnny because he made a YouTube music video, or he made or I should say, TMFJonny made a music video, and it's shot entirely in VR chat.
In VR chat, right? Interesting. Yeah.
And quite brilliantly, and it taught me a lot of things, which I've actually brought into my practice. Which is, if you want to make a movie in VR, it is exactly the same as doing it in real life, right? You need a shot list, you need a director, you need a continuity person, you need an editor, you need a location manager, you need production assistants. Sure. You need costuming, you need light. It's everything. I like to say to my students, it's everything except the trucks.
Right. And because you're building all those things inside virtual reality, right? You're taking the sets and the props and you're creating them. You are costuming yourself and prepping yourself, and then going on camera, so to speak, and setting the shots, right? And yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Yeah, at Sundance there was a premiere of a movie that was created, a full feature film, all in VR chat that had its moment, and it's very.
We met in VR chat.
Yeah. Yes. Those are actually some good friends of mine. Yeah, excellent. I haven't seen the film yet. I really want to see it, but yeah, really good friends of mine that made that.
So tell us, like, what you do this full time now as a living. So tell us what your week, like an average week, is like for you, and what platforms you're doing it on. Because
average week, sheer utter chaos. No, I think that's pretty true for most modern content creators that are full time on YouTube and other platforms. It's just I don't think my workflow is any different from anybody else that does content creation. VR doesn't really, and VTubing doesn't really change anything. And as Charlie was saying, even when we're like shooting a music video or a movie or whatever in VR, everything is the same. And a lot of people I talk to assume that there's some sort of majorly different workflow that we take. But the truth is, when I'm doing, say, an Omegle video for YouTube, it's no different than if I was using my real face and everything else. It's just that I'm setting up a virtual camera versus a real camera. Or if I'm performing music on stage, on a stream, it's no different than if I was performing music on stage in front of a live audience. I'm mic'd up the same way. My monitors are I do the whole kit that any stage vocalist would do: in-ear monitors, microphone, everything. The difference is I also just slap on a VR headset and full body trackers to track my to capture my motion and everything in VR to translate that into the stream. But everything is pretty much the same as any other content creator, just with the added difference of using an avatar versus my actual look.
Right. So Charlie, what Johnny has stumbled onto and it's the most overtalked piece of lexicon of the past year or two, is he is a true metaverser now. He is defining what the metaverse actually is taking things that used to exist in the real world and bringing them into a virtual environment and virtual world fully, so that you are living and working inside this set of technology, as opposed to the previous set of technology, which would have potentially been, a movie camera and real sets and lights and so forth and so on. You've literally brought that into the metaverse. So while these large companies trying to define what the metaverse is, what's happening is the organic creators are actually defining what the metaverse is. And you are a prime example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many cool things going on. I kind of consider VR chat the metaverse at this point, or at least what people envision what the metaverse can be. If this was 15 years ago, we'd be talking about how Second Life is the metaverse, but right. I think it changes all the time, and the definition is constantly in flux. But the reality is absolutely correct what you said. At least in VR chat and in the sort of subculture of VR chat, there is very much this idea of taking real world events and cultures and lifestyles and bringing that into the space. And a really good example right now of a community that's growing incredibly rapidly and is being adopted incredibly rapidly is the EDM and club community. That there are even cases of real life clubs, especially during COVID, that just made that transition into the VR space and just continued operating, but within the VR space. And instead of bringing their DJs into their club in the real world, they would just set them up with VR chat and bring them into the virtual space, and everybody would show up in VR and do the exact same thing they would, in real life. And it caught on. And there's so many clubs now out there, all selling, just like they would in real life, selling merch and creating brand awareness and doing the exact same thing they would, except just in a virtual space.
Right. Yeah. If you think about it broadly, the idea of taking things that used to have physical properties and then just assigning them to pixels. So the typewriter to the word processor, voice to voice face communication to the telephone, and then eventually, video chat, right? Which is where we sit today in various forms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Physical books into ebooks, and now the physical presence of almost anything we do into some sort of pixels, and using VR technology to allow that to have full spatial dynamics, right? And the ability to start to feel it's real, to the point of EDM clubs and bringing people into that music scene in a place where if they can't go in person, they don't just want to watch it on their phone, they want to be inside it, and they want to actually feel like it's really happening to them. And therefore VR has a very important role to play there. And mixed reality will start to take that over as you start to blend those worlds together, right? So it's quite fascinating.
So Johnny, let's talk for a minute just about the economics of it, because you're building a business around your character. And I think you make a considerable amount of money from YouTube, from advertising. So can you give us a view of sort of the business of being a VTuber?
Yeah, VTubing is starting to become a very, very big business. And already there's multiple organizations, talent organizations sprouting up everywhere that have been around for a few years now, that are just turning into these massive operations. So like you have various things like HoloLive based out of Japan, which is absolutely gigantic. You have VShojo, which is kind of North America's version of HoloLive, with many VTubers kind of based around Twitch, and a few others that are in the YouTube space. Myself, I'm still independent, and sort of the business again is just very much similar to any other YouTuber out there that there's really no major difference. And as the audience grows and as people seek out VTuber specifically, things are just getting, bigger and bigger and bigger. And the audience looking for that content is just rapidly growing at this point.
So tell us a little bit about the Omegle angle. You do music videos, You do some scripted performances, but then most of it is kind of live and improvisational with people in the physical world.
Yeah. So early 2020, just at the beginning of the pandemic, I was looking for something new to do with my content. And a lot of my content, being a VTuber, finding things to do, actually, my creative process isn't this big complex thing. It's actually just, I look at regular mainstream content and I go, well, could I do that virtually? And Omegle was no different. It was, what would happen if I took my VTuber avatar and instead of going on Omegle, because I think a lot of people who are in YouTube are kind of familiar with the idea of an Omegle video. It's a content format on YouTube that has been around for years, and it's been done by many different creators, but nobody had done it really in the virtual space. And so I was just like, well, what if I did that? And what sort of launched it, I think, originally was just the sheer reactions of people when they would join and see this virtual avatar that wasn't just staring back at them. It wasn't just, this basic face, face rig that was looking back at them. It was somebody who was talking to them, that was walking around, that was waving at them, that was fully interactive. And early on in those days when I first started doing these videos, that was kind of the edge that it gave me, was just like, people were just seeing this. A lot of people were seeing this for the first time, and getting those reactions and seeing those reactions and seeing people interacting with a VTuber for the first time was just sort of like this massive shock. And the videos just exploded from there, just because it was something so new and so different in that space.
So it seems like you now have a sort of a spin-off, if you will, or a secondary avatar of Little Johnny, right? Where which is sort of the prepubescent TMFJonny with like a little kid voice who does many of the same things, but I think pitched to a slightly different audience, right? Because TMFJonny is very adult character, very focused on sex appeal and pop music, but the Little Johnny seems to be somebody who's focused more on interacting with younger people online.
Yeah. So, and sometimes I wonder if that little guy is even more popular than I am, but but yeah. So Baby Johnny, as I call him, is a character that was created about mid 2020. My avatar creator at the time just threw the avatar together and was just like, what do you think of this? And I will always let the record show that I looked at it and I went, this is stupid. I don't like it. I don't want to use it. I just toss it in the garbage. And, I'm sure lots of creators and lots of entertainers have had this journey with something, and my avatar creator was just like, just try it, just stream it once and see what people think. And that was sort of the inception of the character. I remember because it was Canada Day. And so I was doing my Canada Day on stream on Twitch and just running around and, doing celebrating and whatever. And I was doing it as Baby Johnny. And from there, I did about 3 or 4 streams after that and then put them all on YouTube, and it just exploded. And everybody just fell in love with the character because he's just so, I don't even know how to describe him. It's so wholesome and just cute, so
right?
He's
down
he's
to
cute
earth
and
he's just adorable, and his voice is iconic at this point. Like, as
I think he's innocent in a way that that your adult persona is not.
Exactly. Yeah. And that you, like, just similar to a voice actor, that a character is entered into the mainstream consciousness when you have people coming up to you and impersonating him to you. It's just like, hey, would you like to hear my Baby Johnny voice? It's like, okay. Like, it's something I never thought I would experience in my lifetime.
Well, your Omegle videos certainly have evolved, because now many people you use the anime channel on Omegle. And so many people recognize you. They're like, it's him. I've been waiting for this moment. It's him.
The amount of people now that recognize me when I'm on Omegle and just freak out, or, the standard fan reaction, anything from pure excitement to just like bawling their eyes out, or I've been waiting to meet you. I've been on here for hours and all that. So just an absolutely cool experience. And as a creator, I mean, that's what you live for, is just, meeting the people that you help to brighten their day and make them smile. And
it's a
really
weird
cool.
kind of fame, right? Because you're not recognized in the grocery store, right? A lot of people that you interact with really don't know anything about the world where you ply your trade. Yet when you go on VR chat, you can't go anywhere without being recognized.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of, and I've, I said a voice actor already. I kind of attribute that sort of sense of fame to a similar thing. A lot of the famous voice actors can say the exact same thing, is they can, walk through the middle of Disneyland and not get recognized, even though they may voice for Disney or something. Right. And, they just don't have, a look that's well known, but they'll do a voice and immediately, Nancy Cartwright busts out Bart Simpson and immediately, everybody knows what's going on. So, so
right.
it's kind of like that.
Right. Yeah. There are all forms of celebrity, and many people, their physical presence is not how people know them. Right. And, there's a whole crop of talent that now lives in that world, and you are defining it not for the previous age, but for the new age and for what's moving into the future, which it's fascinating for a lot of our listeners. I think this is a really important thing to be aware of. This is not something that's just on the edge that's coming. This is already firmly in the culture, firmly with large audiences, worldwide presence. Very similar to the earlier days of YouTube.
I think it suggests as VR grows how big this can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's really going to be a big part of popular culture in the next 10 years as VR starts to really create a big space for itself in the mainstream entertainment spectrum. So I think there's unlimited potential. Johnny, before we wrap up, can you please tell people where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm active on pretty much all the major content platforms. You can just find me under TFMJonny, and YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter. All of those are where I'm active on. And yeah.
It's great.
Well, congratulations on your fame and your success. Deeply, deeply grateful that you took a few minutes out of your day. The other thing we didn't talk about is this is sort of like musician. Oh, you're a musician. That must be the easiest, funnest job. It's like, no, I work 20 hours a day. It actually kind of sucks.
Yeah. That's what I tell all the kids that are just like, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. It's like, I hope you like 16-hour days.
Alone. 16-hour days alone.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the show we have for you today, everybody. Johnny, great to hang out with you this afternoon. As always, you are a very fun and informative friend and guest to have. So have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.